Hello, I'm Gwyn Nelson, the Programme Manager at the Wales Coastal Monitoring Centre. I'm here to talk about our work with primary schools in Wales. I'd like to start by thanking PCO for their ongoing support and to Josie for the invitation. Writing this presentation has forced us to reflect on how much we've achieved with the schools programme. I don't think we stop enough to reflect. My aim of this presentation is to inspire you to approach your local primary schools and get involved with education. A reminder of who we are. So Will and I are on the outsides of this photo with two full-time staff. We've been in place since 2019. We started an undergraduate placement scheme and have been running government-funded Kickstart placements. This has helped enormously with schools work. We've been given an extended 5-year phase until 2026, but we were still on annual funding cycles. A key point to highlight here is we're not educators by training. And probably like most of you, we had zero experience when we started our schools journey. Why does a coastal monitoring centre have a primary schools programme? My background is not public sector or engineering or education. Actually, I'm not sure how I got this job. I can only suspect that nobody else applied. I do have business operations experience and coastal survey experience, but trying to get to grips with my new role, as Elon Musk likes to talk about, I wanted to find our first principle. And one easy way to do this is by using the Japanese 5 why technique to drill down to the root of what we're doing. So at risk of sounding too simplistic to the experts present, we asked why 5 times. Why are we collecting coastal monitoring data? To learn about coastal processes and coastal evolution. So why do we do that? To inform shoreline management plans, defence design, and plan for future processes. Why? To protect people, properties, and infrastructure from flooding and erosion. So why do we do that? Because they were built in what are now high-risk locations. And why is that? Well, we weren't educated about the future risk at the time when we built them. With this in mind, flood and coastal erosion risk management in Wales costs nearly 70 million annually. Are we firefighting? How much would it cost us if we had understood nature and built property and infrastructure to be future guarded? How much economic impact could we mitigate going forward if we informed the next generations? Our kids will be the informed decision makers. So arguably, education is the single most cost-effective use of our time as a coastal monitoring centre, because climate change is a long game. As of 2015, any project or organisation funded by the Welsh Government has to prove its contributions to the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. For us, a schools programme would contribute to the 7 goals shown here, which we have to report on quarterly. Not being educators, we met with CAST, climate sociologists at Climate and Social Transformation Research Project in Cardiff University, who gave us 2 key goals. First, to breach the disconnect between owning the problem and it being someone else's problem. Here's an example of children visualizing what the climate change impacted future will look like. Then we discussed what we can do to mitigate the impacts, and the children were asked to redraw that different, brighter future, visually connecting them with the impact that they can have. Second, not just teaching them about climate change, but provide them with the tools to manage and make decisions in the future. Some examples include looking at flood risk maps, doing basic risk scoring of the coastline. They didn't know it, but they just performed a multi-criteria decision analysis. We were lucky to develop the programme under the new Welsh curriculum 2022 with a teacher at Barry Island Primary School, who were a trial school. It was aimed at year 6, 10-year-olds. So the curriculum in Wales is moving away from subjects to areas of learning experience, intended to provide more purpose to their learning. With each area of learning experience, or AOLE, every lesson should provide the opportunity to improve literacy, numeracy, and digital competency skills. This structure hopes to encourage every child to achieve 4 core purposes: be ambitious, capable learners, be enterprising, creative contributors, be ethical, informed citizens, and be healthy, confident individuals. Thankfully, the teachers were able to take care of this aspect of the program. So COVID has been extremely tough on teachers. It's a relief for them to receive a pre-made, well-designed program, which also has expert input and covers a variety of important topics. We work with a graphic designer to make high quality, engaging material, and it's demonstrated to be easy to follow for teachers. Top right, you can see an example lesson plan for the teachers, which considers the curriculum and aspects of child development, including differentiation. So creating different lesson resources for children with different abilities, that is the more able and talented and the additional learning needs. For us, having nice looking slides is not what makes it special. Engaging real world context, experience through immersion, and children owning responsibility, inspiring passion is what leads to learning. On the left, children measuring the highest local storm surge, plus 100-year sea level rise prediction in their local area. Connecting with international schools is part of our aim, like American Samoa, here who's shared experiences between classes. Practical lessons, including building weather stations and taking measurements, bottom right, using spreadsheets for the first time, and our virtual reality tours in different climates, built with contributors from coastal expert universities around the world. We planned a field trip too, but COVID put a block on that, so we came up with the Ask the Expert session, where the children interviewed experts through large screens in their classroom. They loved this podcast idea, seeing it as an opportunity to kickstart their YouTube careers.
We've been looking at coastal flood defences this week. Where's the most money being spent in Wales to protect people from floods?
That is a great question, and one that is really difficult to answer, actually. But a good example, I think, is a scheme that was delivered at a low-lying town on the West Wales coast called Borth, just north of Aberystwyth. And there was a mixture of defence structures that were put in place, and some shingle was brought in to help break the wave energy, and that scheme cost about £13 million. You quite often find that coastal defence schemes cost of the order of several £1 million. It's really, really expensive, and really important that we do the right things to make the best of that money.
We've been
Here's an example of one of our interactive 360 case studies used in class, which can be found on our website and downloaded into VR headsets. You can click features and learn about geological processes and the history of some of the challenges faced. So some of the challenges, COVID-19 obviously hit us with huge delays, and our first teacher moved on before completing the first trial. Our graphic designer retired. Google rescinded the virtual reality software in which all our case studies were originally built. We had public sector general procurement limitations, a lack of external cooperation and resources at times. Then how do you keep children engaged with climate education without instilling a sense of doom? And finally, I've never found myself so lost for words with questions from the kids like, "Sir, how is this activity supposed to keep me engaged with ADHD?" And my mum says everyone who works for the government is evil. Well, she sounds lovely. I think I'll have left before she picks you up today. Like any project, we identify our measures to confirm successes. And we started with a number of children by XX date, but we didn't expect the additional measures that came. We had a full page spread in the latest Welsh National Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Strategy, going some way to securing our own jobs. Impressions through social media, reaching 1,800 parents through Twitter each visit. Appearance in newspapers, and the external 7-year school inspection report quoted By year 6, many pupils debate topical subjects articulately, such as climate change. I personally felt a sense of pride reading that, even if I am evil. Here's some snapshots of the children's letters that they wrote in the final lesson. Their challenge was to write to the council of one of the 360-degree virtual reality case studies, either in Fairborn, Newton, Coleroy in Australia, or Chittagong in Bangladesh. They needed to inform the council about the flood risks in their local area and make suggestions how they could protect their coastline in future. To quote the teacher, "I thought this lesson would be like pulling teeth in the last week before summer holidays, but they built up such a passion." They wrote and wrote. You can see they included facts from their previous lessons, which shows how much knowledge they absorbed. Here are a few snippets from our website, so please go and have a look under the resources section. We anticipate publishing full material this October 2021. And look into the future. We're going to start to target the Welsh primary schools as the materials are now fully complete and trialled. We've had talks with a secondary school about making it a transition program. We're working on some animations with an A-level student. Our international contributors have discussed getting translations to use the materials. I saw this quote on the left and thought it too appropriate not to share. So please think about contacting your local primary schools and see what collaborations you can come up with. All of our material will be freely available to help you get started. I'd like to give a huge thank you to all our contributors and of course yourselves for taking the time to listen today. And if you have any questions, please get in touch.